So, Jesus and the writers of Hebrews were discussing two different kinds of tithes. Two different kinds of tithes. There is tithe of Abraham before the law, and Jesus talked about tithe under the law. Tithe, which is under the weightier matters of the law. The writer of Hebrews talked about tithe, which Abraham gave before the law. So there are two kinds of tithes. Please pay attention, I beg you. There are two kinds of tithe. There is tithe before the law, and there is tithe during the law.
There are two orders of priesthood in the whole Bible. One is the Levitical order, that's Old Testament, Aaron and his descendants. That is the priesthood that worked with the Old Testament law. And so when the old covenant was folded up, that was removed. There was another priesthood that was in existence long before Aaronic order came in. It's Melchizedek order. It is that priestly order that was brought forward in the New Testament. I want you guys to listen very carefully. That order is built after the principle of endless life, because the high priest does not die. Because you see that particular covenant, it has 7 blessings that go with it. You can listen to your modern preachers, listen to whoever you like. That's your own business. You can't talk me out of it. And all of you that are listening, you're paying. Sometimes it's no more the 10% you have to pay. Some of you are paying 70, some are paying 50, some are paying 90. Because these are the problems you open up in your life.
I'm not just excited about teaching, I'm not excited about teaching the subject of tithe. Because Brother Paul never mentioned tithe by mistake. The entire Pauline theology does not have a mention of the word tithe, not even by accident. Not even something that looks like it. You won't even say anything like tithe before you can add it. But we have to teach it because people have to be helped. Because it's been a big monster in the body of Christ.
Okay, welcome back to this channel once again. It's good to have you here. So today we are revisiting a contentious topic that has sparked intense debate in religion cycle, that is tithing. For years the practice of giving 10% of one income to the church has been a cornerstone of faith for many, yet question and doubt lingers. So join us, as we dive into the history, scripture, and modern application of tithing. We will explore and not do one operation. Before we begin this conversation, I would like to challenge your perspective. If you are not ready for a kind of a candid exploration, feel free to leave this video. Today's topic is intentionally provocative. It looks like it's so wrong to be so right, or should I say so right to be so wrong. We are going to discover it in this video. So feel free to like and share the video and enjoy.
Because you see that particular covenant, it has 7 blessings that go with it. You can listen to your modern preachers, listen to whoever you like. That's your own business. You can't talk me out of it. And all of you that are listening, you are paying. Sometimes it's no more the 10% you have to pay. Some of you are paying 70, some are paying 50, some are paying 90. Because these are the problems you open up in your life. You think you're wiser than Colgate, the created Colgate company that started in New York like a soap making factory and started tithing, and the thing took him. And then when he saw the blessings, he moved it to 20. Where did Colgate stop? Is that you can Google it, it's on the internet. You think you're wiser than them? But these are your modern preachers that are teaching you confusion. Some are turning the Bible upside down. You think it's a 21st century phenomenon? You're wiser than Idahosa that even took his son. He said, God, okay, that's a child that was born sick, that was thrown away in the dustbin in the beginning. Because the father, they knew that he was not going to, so they threw him away. The mother now escaped later, took him and ran to her place and said, at least he has not died. when he dies, we now bury him. But now to throw him alive. And that boy survived and became a preacher. A born preacher as a young man. Piety took him and mentored him. When he read this document of that, he said, how can the employer, the owner, give the people 90 and say, bring me back 10? Will you do it? If you set up a business, will you give your people, the people who work for you 90 of your profit and keep 10? No. God kept 10. That 10 is what you are still fighting over. What is wrong? If you see Genesis chapter 3, he said to Adam, of all the trees, please put it up, let them say, of every tree in the garden you will eat, the only one I kept for me is one tree. One! Eat all! I've never seen that type of person. Only one. But the day you now cross this boundary, you will die. What did Satan do? It is that one that God keeps on himself. He will be pushing people, pushing you. 10% again. In the house I said, no, I will reverse it. I'll be giving you 90, I will be keeping 10 because, and God made him the greatest preacher that rose from Africa. Yet he was coming from the bottom line. At that time, when Pentecostal churches were mushroom, the man is building cathedral, they built a stadium and roofed it. You see, 30-something thousand people. There are two orders of priesthood in the whole Bible. One is the Levitical order, that's the Old Testament, Aaron and his descendants. That's the priesthood that worked with the Old Testament law. And so when the old covenant was folded up, that was removed. There was another priesthood that was in existence long before the Aaronic order came in. It's Melchizedek order. It is that priestly order that was brought forward in the New Testament. I want you guys to listen very carefully. That order is built after the principle of endless life, because the high priest does not die. So it's not like this other one where people die, you change them, you ordain a new bishop. You know how it is when a bishop dies. No, the high priest does not die, he lives forever. It has 5 elements with which you can easily spot it out. It is the Melchizedek order that brought communion into existence. When Abraham met him in Genesis 14, he served him communion. So it's not Jesus that invented communion, because Jesus is a high priest after the order of Melchizedek. You and I are priests after the order of Melchizedek. You need to understand this. That order introduced communion. So that's why Jesus served it to himself. That's why we're doing it today. Watch. Second element about that order, the salvation and justification is by faith, not by works. So that Abraham, who submitted to the Melchizedek order, was not justified by works, by the law. The Bible says Abraham believed God. His faith was made to him righteousness. That's why today when you give your life to Christ, you are justified. Your sins are washed. That by faith we are saved today. It is not Jesus inventing it. It is the order that is already established. He is just reinforcing it for the New Testament. In that order, a priest is both a priest and a king. I want you to take note of that. In the Aaronic order, you're either a priest or you're a king. You can't find anybody from the king dabbling into the priestly office. Neither will you find anybody from the priestly office dabbling into the kingly office. For example, one king tried it. His name is Hosea. So the introduction of the book of Isaiah chapter 6 said, in the year that Hosea died, I saw the Lord. That's a king. So when you go to the book of Kings, you will see him. The Bible said this man did what was right in the sight of God. He was a righteous king that ruled well. He made one mistake. One day, he ventured into the office of the priesthood, took incense that only the priest offered, and walked into the temple of God to go and offer it. And the priest accosted him and told him, this will not end well. You are violating a boundary. Don't do it. He ignored them and walked in. As he was waving the incense, leprosy struck him. And he became a leper. They carried him out and took him to the leper's camp. He stayed there till he died. Yet he was a good king. Okay, for example, you will see the first king of Israel. What's his name? Saul. There was war. The Philistines had gathered. He was waiting for Samuel the priest to come and offer sacrifices so he can go to war. But Samuel delayed in his coming. So what did Saul do? He took the animal and offered. Just about the time he was doing, Samuel arrived. Do you know what Samuel announced? The kingdom is now taken away from you because you have violated you disobeyed the Lord. Look at, he didn't commit murder, he didn't commit adultery, he just did priestly office so that they can win a battle. And he was removed from office as a king. Things went bad. You don't cross it. But then in the Melchizedek order, Melchizedek is a priest of the Most High and king of Salem. The first king that ruled Jerusalem is Jerusalem. He was king of that city and a priest. That's why today Jesus is our high priest. He's also king of kings. That's why the Bible said, I've made you what? Kings and priests unto our God. What was not possible under the old covenant, you can combine the office because this new order has a new set of laws. You want to clarify? Now listen, ladies and gentlemen. It is that same Melchizedek that met Abraham and took 10% of tithe from him. Tithing is wrong for the New Testament. Jesus now came as a priest under the Melchizedek order. What is his statement about it? Matthew 23:23. Watch. Because if he preaches against it, he will violate the order of priesthood under which he operates. Look at Matthew 23. What do you scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites? For you pay tithe of meat and his cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law. What are the weightier matters? Things like judgment, things like mercy, things like faith, things like love. You can't, just because you give God money, you are violating his commandments. So what is his teaching? He said, these you ought to have done, and not to leave the order undone. Do this, but don't leave the tithing undone. Hey, give me another translation. What sorrow awaits you teachers of religious law, you Pharisee people, for you are careful to tithe even the tiniest income of your half garden, but you ignore the more important aspect of the law: justice, mercy, and faith. You should tithe, yes, but do not neglect the more important things. Did he say remove it? This is Jesus. Who are you following? So if someone is coming to this, you're a tither, you sleep with people's wives, you're involved in armed robbery, or in Sunday we see you here, you are violating the weightier matters. You are unjust, you are oppressive, you cheat people, you are violating the weightier matters. So we are correcting you. Get your moral values right, but still continue with your tithe. That's what Jesus is teaching here. So Hebrews chapter 7. Watch. If tithing is right in the New Testament, I just want you to see that. Watch. Melchizedek was king of the city of Salem. That's Jerusalem. He was also priest of the Most High. Did you see the two things I told you? Now what? He met Abraham returning from the slaughter of kings and blessed him. Verse 2. Verse 2. To whom also Abraham did what? Gave 10% of all. That's what he called tithe. When you get your income, give 10% to God. First, being by interpretation king of righteousness, after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace. Verse 3. He's without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like the Son of God, abided the priest continually. Just watch. Verse 4. Now consider how great this man is. Talking about Melchizedek, to whom Abraham gave the tenth of the spoil. Verse 5. I want you to now see, he compares the priest under the Levitical order and priesthood under the New Testament. I want you to watch what he did here. Verily, they that are the sons of Levi, who receive the office of the priest, have command to take tithes of the people. This Old Testament, according to the law. That is, they take tithes of their brethren, even though they come from the loins of Abraham. All these people tithe in Abraham's seed, though, but they have to give tithe to the priest. That's Old Testament. But now watch verse 6. But he whose descent is not counted from them received tithe of Abraham. Melchizedek is not from the Levitical tribe. You know the 12 tribes of Israel, the tribe of Levi. The place is king is Judah. Judah are the ones that have Jerusalem. That's where David, Jesus, all these people are. That's the territory. He's not even from their lineage, but he is the one collecting tithe from Abraham and blessing that had the promise. So verse 7 said, watch. Without contradiction, the less is blessed of the greater. Verse 8. Please, so that once and for all, you won't say you don't know. Let it be disobedience. Here, that is in the Levitical order, men that die receive tithe. That's in the Old Testament. There, he received them of whom it is witness that he does what? Who is that person that lives forever, that is our high priest today? Who is the person? I know you bring it to his body. The church is his body. The institution he placed on it to advance his cause. But the Bible said it is him that is receiving it. Bible said that came in Israel, everybody did what was right in his own eyes because there was no teaching priest to clear this and make it clear to people. This thing has to do with priesthood, and there are two orders. Say with me. We in the New Testament. Say we in the New Testament. We're under the order of Melchizedek, not under the order of the Levites. Even in the Levitical order, men that die, they keep changing them around because of death. Receive tithe to the children of Israel. Here, the one that lives forever receives them. And that's why, if you look at the 7 rewards that come with it, one of them that has to do with rebuking the devourer. God said, when you tithe, I will rebuke the devourer. He didn't say you will do it. The reason is that you can cheat God, eat his money, and still rebuke the devourer. That means what Adam would have done is eat that forbidden fruit and still take over the garden. God said, no, I will rebuke the devourer for your sake. So when you don't, I will let him loose. So we will eat up your labor so that you will learn. I don't care, I don't even understand. We are the light of the world. We are the one to educate the society, educate the world. When is it now society educating the church? Because of some guys making noise on social media. Let me even tell you, it doesn't even stop with tithes. A lot of other responsible people, after God bless them, it's not just giving God 10. They think about another 10 for giving back to society, for using it for social work, for impacting people, for doing a lot of good work. This is at the level you should grow into. And I always teach our people, you can't start with a second, start with a second 5. Have a plan for the kingdom, have a plan for the poor and the needy. Every genuine Christian must be involved in some form of social project or social intervention or the other. Even companies are expected to do it. It's called giving back to society. You're making money from a place. So they have that corporate social responsibility budget. And you will see the other side of life. A blessed life. A blessed day is better than a cursed night.
So now that you watched the first part of this whole video, how is your perspective shifting? Is tithing essential for you, or do you want to have a rethink? Now, before I go ahead to play the second part of the video I have for you, if you think tithing is essential for you and you don't want to have a rethink, if you don't want to feel confused, you can stop the video at this point. Don't watch it further. But if you think that tithing is, if you think you want to still explore more on the complexity of tithing stuff, then you can go ahead and watch the second video.
Right. The subject of tithing. In the epistles, the word tithe is just mentioned in one chapter. In the entire epistles, the word tithe is just mentioned in one chapter. And then Jesus mentions tithe twice. Jesus mentions tithe twice. What a vital subject. Very vital. That Jesus mentioned it only twice, and in the entire epistles it only appears once. That must be some big subject. Yet it's such a major thing in the body of Christ. Some of the pastors that don't like me is simply because of my stance on tithe. They like every other thing about me, but they don't like me because of tithe. It's what a major issue, that it will even make pastors not want to relate with me because of tithe, as if tithe paid for anybody's sins. Now Hebrews chapter 7 verse 4. Let's begin the journey. Now the word tithe is the word dekate. D-E-K-A-T-E. Dekate. It means a tenth. The word dekate, which means a tenth. Now let's look at a quick view of Matthew 23, where Jesus spoke emphatically about the tithe. What is Jesus saying there specifically? Now listen carefully, everybody. Look at me. You know, some people are funny. They say Jesus there is commanding people to give tithe. Even Jesus said you should pay tithe. Sometimes you just need prayer for some people's hypocrisy, deceitfulness, or illiteracy, whichever is not forgiven. You need prayer. It's either deceit or hypocrisy, or pure ignorance. And if you're ignorant, don't talk authoritative. Don't be authoritative when you are ignorant. Let people know you don't know. Don't speak like an authority. And if you are hypocritical, well, or deceitful, is one of them. How can you say Jesus was commanding people to pay tithe in Matthew 23 when he started the statement with woe? Woe. He didn't even start with good morning. Whoa. Are we here? Now, was Jesus commanding anybody to give tithe? Remember, they were doing tithe before Jesus came. It was what they were doing before he came. That's why he said, woe unto you, hypocrites. You are taking care of tithe, which is a lesser matter, and you're overlooking the weightier matters of the law. Woe unto you, hypocrites. So it wasn't Jesus who brought the idea. It was their practice before Jesus arrived at the scene. Are we still in the building? So Matthew 23, the first thing Jesus did here should not be lost. He says, you have omitted the weightier matters. That should not be lost. You have omitted the weightier matters of the law. So Jesus identified tithing as of the law. Jesus identified tithing as of the law. Because Hebrews chapter 7, where we read earlier, was given before the law. It was given before the law. Why do we know that it was before the law? Because it talked about Abraham. Abraham was before the law. Jesus and the writers of Hebrews, we are discussing two different kinds of tithes. Two different kinds of tithes. There is tithe of Abraham before the law, and Jesus talked about tithe under the law. Tithe, which is under the weightier matters of the law. The writer of Hebrews talked about tithe, which Abraham gave before the law. So there are two kinds of tithe. Please pay attention, I beg you. There are two kinds of tithe. There is tithe before the law, and there is tithe during the law. Because when Abraham gave tithe to Melchizedek, there was no law of Moses. Keep that somewhere, because that's going to come handy. So either way, whether we are looking at Jesus or the writer of Hebrews, both of them made references to the Old Testament books. Number one referred to Moses' seat. Matthew 23:1. The Pharisees like to sit on Moses' seat. The Hebrew writer made references to Genesis 14, when Abraham gave tithe to Melchizedek. Alright? Jesus talked about Moses' seat. Hebrew talks about Abraham, two kinds of tithing. So the two instances are either the law or the book of Genesis. So our study of tithing must therefore be within these books. Are you with me on the same page? Without much ado, the tithe was always from food. That before we get into reading, you see the way I'm going in, no scripture will escape me. So before we even start the journey, let me submit to you. The tithe was always from food, not money. The tithe was always from food. Every reference I gave you, the tithe was always from food. Tithe was never money. Never. Tithe in the law was always food. So let's read. Under the law, Leviticus 27:30. Quickly, I need you, brother, on the computer to be in the spirit. Watch. And all the tithes of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the land, is the Lord. It is holy unto the Lord. So tithe will be from grain. Malachi chapter 3 verse 10. Malachi chapter 3 verse 10. Bring ye all, underline all, because I will do some work there. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse. Into where? The storehouse. That there may be what? Meat. Meat means food. That there may be food, because tithe is food in my house. And prove me now here with saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall be no room enough to receive it. Meat means food. So again, food. Are we clear? If we're clear, say I hear you. Anybody that sees this and says otherwise is very dishonest. Pay attention. That's why I'm painstakingly reading with you. What about Jesus? What did Jesus say was tithe? Matthew 23. Matthew 23:23. That's the second column. The third column, which is 4 Gospels. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint, underline mint, and anise, underline anise, and cumin, underline cumin. Those are the things you pay tithe. And this is Jesus talking to those people. What is mint? The word mint there is not Nigerian minting company. It's only a dubious pastor that will tell you mint there means mint money. That's dubious. The word mint there is the Greek word hipposon. H-E-P-E-U-O-S. H-E-P-E-U-O-S. O-U-O. It means peppermint that is used to cook. Peppermint, okay, that is used to cook. Herbs. Okay, so Jesus said the tithe will come from herbs. Number 2, anise. Anise is herbs. Okay? Number 3, cumin is a Greek word, kuminon. Kuminon. Spice, food like curry. So you tithe from curry and from herbs. This is Jesus, who is God, talking. If you're with me, say I hear you. So you discover the Old Testament and the 4 Gospels agree that tithe is from food. Why will it be the same? Because Jesus called it a matter of the law. So that's why we read from Exodus down to the Gospel. All of them agree that this is law, food. So it cannot be different. That means the tithe in the law and the tithe in the 4 Gospels refers to what? Food. Okay? So tithe are in 2 categories, as we have seen so far. We have food and animals. Let's see Leviticus 27 verse 30. Leviticus chapter 27 verse 30. Please you have to be patient with me. I'm taking extra time, and I'll be taking extra time within the week because I want to teach this tithe. After this series, I won't teach tithe again till Jesus comes. If you ask for tithe, I will just carry it and say, go and listen. Because that's not the gospel. But that is a doctrine that people must understand. Is it clear? Okay, so that's why I'm taking time to go through all this. Leviticus 27 verse 30. And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy unto the Lord. Verse 32. 27:32. And concerning the tithe of the herd or of the flock, even of whatsoever passeth under the rod, the tenth shall be holy unto the Lord. That's the first mention. The law of first mention under the law says tithe will be food and animals. Then some people will say, listen everybody, some pastors will say the reason why the tithe is food was because there was no money at that time. So people were asked to give food. But today, since there's money, instead of food, bring money. Fraud. Let me prove to you that there was money before the tithe. Are you ready? Because we're going to look at scriptures now. I'm telling you that I'm teaching you so you can teach others. Okay, so I've got some news for you. In Genesis alone, the word money was used 32 times. In the book of Genesis alone, the word money was used 32 times. You know, the first time we read about, so we had money and we had tithe, and the tithe was not money. Someone says, well, the reason why it's like that is because the occupation of the Jews was farming. So since they were farmers, that is why they were to bring food. If they were doctors, lawyers, they would have asked them to bring money. Fraud. They were not all farmers. Let's see, as I round up this service for the next one, whether farming was the Adamic profession. Genesis 40 verse 2. Are you in the building? And Pharaoh was wrought against 2 of his officers, against the chief of the butlers. So there was a profession for butlers. Chief of the butlers, and against the chief of the bakers. So they were bakers and they were butlers. They were not farmers. Jeremiah 37:21. We're going to take care of all concerns. Jeremiah 37:21. Then Zedekiah the king commanded that they should commit Jeremiah into the court of the prison, and that they should give him daily a piece of bread out of the baker's street, until all the bread in the city were spent. Thus Jeremiah remained in the court of the prison. So they were bakers among the Jews. 1 Samuel 8:13. 1 Samuel 8:13. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries and to be cooks and to be bakers. So they were confectionaries, they were cooks, and they were bakers. They were not all farmers. Yet the tithe was farm produce. Deuteronomy 15:2. Deuteronomy 15:2. And this is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lendeth aught unto his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbor or of his brother, because it is called the Lord's release. These were bankers, people that lend money. They were bankers, they were cooks, they were bakers, they were butlers. Are we settling that matter? Matthew 25:27. Jesus said, you will have given my money to the exchangers. At my coming, it will have profit. So they were bankers among the Jews. We even had ambassadors. In 1 Kings 5:1, they were ambassadors. All these are professions. among the Jews. Numbers chapter 20 verse 14 for your reading at home. There were cooks also, like we saw. 1 Samuel 8:13. There were cooks. We have soldiers. There were also soldiers. Luke chapter 3 verse 14. There were soldiers. There were those who were to repair the temple. We even have fishermen among the Jews. We are tent makers. Acts 18:3. There were tent makers. There were fishermen. We even have carpenters. They had carpenters. Isaiah 44:13. Carpenters. Jesus was also a carpenter. Mark chapter 6 verse 3. Among the Jews, we had different professions. There was money, yet the tithe was food.
The law has changed because the priesthood has changed. So anybody still preaching the law of Moses is under Levi. That is why they collect tithes by force. It's under Levi. They are under Levi. That's why they say if you don't pay tithe, you're under a curse. That is Levi in operation. That is not the priesthood of Jesus. Because under Jesus, the law has changed.